You're listening to the N2K Space Network.
And now, a message from Cyberbit. Mastering cybersecurity is like mastering a sport. You build muscle memory through rigorous practice, then you train as a team to foster cohesion while operating under pressure. Like athletes, cybersecurity professionals thrive on hands-on simulation. But traditional courses, certifications, and open-source labs won't build you a winning team. You need Cyberbit. Cyberbit offers a hyper-realistic simulation environment for your SOC, IR, and C-suite to refine your skills, all using the market-leading SIMs, EDRs, firewalls, and WAFs they use every day. Cyberbit is offering CyberWire listeners a free live-fire exercise. Sign up your team now at cyberbit.com/cyberwire.
Okay, Maria, as it's graduation time across the US right now, I figure I'd have a graduation joke for you. Why did the sun no longer go to university?
The son no longer went to university because, I don't know.
It already had too many degrees.
Oh my God. I can never see these coming. I was like, is it a corona thing? I don't know. I'm not good at these.
T-minus 20 seconds to LOS speed rest. Go for deploy. Roger roll.
Today is May 31st, 2024. I'm Maria Varmazis.
I'm Alice Carruth, and this is T-minus.
China's Galactic Energy sets a new record with 2 launches in 3 days. Peru and Slovakia signed the Artemis Accords. Starliner on course for liftoff on Saturday.
And I'll be speaking to Amit Srivastava from the University of Adelaide about the inaugural Australian Space Architecture Challenge, so stay with us for that chat.
Happy Friday, everybody. Let's dive into today's Intel briefing, shall we? And we're starting with a new record set in China for a commercial company launch turnaround. We're getting so used to multiple launches a week, sometimes even in one day over here in the US, thank you SpaceX. But still, that's a novel approach across the rest of the world. But China's commercial launch company, Galactic Energy, has launched 2 rockets in 3 days, setting a new record for the shortest interval between 2 commercial launches by a private Chinese rocket company. Earlier this week, the Ceres 1 rocket launched from a sea platform for the Beautiful World mission, and earlier today, the Ceres 1 Y-12 carrier rocket blasted off from the Jiuquan Satellite Launch Center, delivering 5 satellites into orbit.
And in a new move, Chinese authorities have decided to restrict the exports of certain components and technologies in the aviation and aerospace sectors starting from July the 1st. According to state media, the move aims to safeguard national security and fulfill non-proliferation and other international obligations. Per the circular, the items under export control include aerospace structural parts and engine manufacturing equipment and software. The statement noted that the export control policies are not targeted at any specific country or region, but states that the government opposes any country or region using controlled items from China to engage in activities undermining China's national sovereignty, security, and development.
NASA has welcomed 2 new signatories to the Artemis Accords. Peru and Slovakia have become signatories 41 and 42 of the coalition agreement, committing to advancing the principles of safe, transparent, and responsible exploration of the Moon, Mars, and beyond.
NASA, Boeing, and the United Launch Alliance say they're still on track to launch the Starliner crew capsule on Saturday, June the 1st. NASA plans to provide live coverage of pre-launch and launch activities for the agency's Boeing crewed flight test, which will carry NASA astronauts Butch Wilmore and Sonny Williams to and from the International Space Station. Liftoff of the United Launch Alliance's Atlas V rocket and Boeing Starliner spacecraft is targeted for 12:25 p.m. Eastern on Saturday from Space Launch Complex 41 at Cape Canaveral Space Force Station in Florida. Starliner plans to dock to the forward-facing port of the station's Harmony module at approximately 1:50 p.m. on Sunday, June the 2nd.
U.S. Space Systems Command is using commercial data analytics powered by commercially and publicly available information to provide timely surveillance, reconnaissance, and tracking products to combatant commands. Known as the Tactical Surveillance, Reconnaissance, and Tracking Program, or we think TAC-CERT, the pilot program is a U.S. Space Force Chief of Space Operations initiative to rapidly deliver commercial data analytics operational planning products through the USSF field components to meet unified combatant command needs. TAC-CERT aims to provide a rapid, dynamic, and competitive acquisition process for commercial vendors to receive taskings and deliver analytical products using space sensing data through a global data marketplace, or GDM. And the GDM is a web-based one-stop shop interface allowing the TAC-CERT cell to advertise, award, and fund short-term surveillance, reconnaissance, and tracking contracts with commercial vendors.
Black Sky Technology has been awarded a $7 million contract renewal to provide space-based imagery and analytics monitoring services to an international government customer. The undisclosed customer will have the ability to draw from multiple intelligence sources through the Black Sky platform, with direct access to high-resolution electro-optical constellation and access to partner constellations for all-weather and very high-resolution imagery.
Sidus Space announced that its artificial intelligence delivery platform called FeatherEdge successfully transmitted data back down to Earth for the first time on May 24th. The LizzieSat-1 mission demonstrated FeatherEdge's ability to upload new algorithms post-launch, run a machine vision algorithm on the hardware accelerator capable of processing data 300 times faster than a CPU, and downlink health and status data to Sidus Mission Control Center in Merritt Island, Florida.
Scout Space announced its optical payload launched aboard the Apex Ares bus on the SpaceX Transporter 10 mission in March 2024 has successfully completed commissioning and captured its first in-space calibration image. Following the successful image capture yesterday on May the 30th, the payload called Sparrow will continue to collect high-resolution in-space data for undisclosed customers.
And hey, welcome to Space, Lunar Industries. The company announced its successful first mission to space launched on May 6, 2024. And for that mission, Think Orbital successfully operated an electron beam welding system in space. Lunar Industries developed the system that powered the operation, a 20 kilovolt power supply that boasts industry-leading size, weight, and power.
Good for them. And there's nothing like an audio-only podcast describing an image. But seriously, this one's worth a gander. Check out the first photo of a wooden CubeSat. You might have heard us tell you about it in previous shows. Kyoto University and Sumitomo Forestry have completed the LignoSat, which is the world's first wooden artificial satellite. LignoSat will launch from the Kennedy Space Center in Florida to the International Space Station in September. And now we have a picture of it. Definitely an interesting-looking spacecraft for sure.
And that concludes our briefing for today. We've added 3 additional stories to the selected reading of our show notes. One's on the ISS National Lab Conference, another on Momentus getting in trouble with the NASDAQ, and a final announcement on water purification systems for Starlab. Those stories and more can be found on our website, space.n2k.com, and click on this episode title.
Hey T-Minus crew, tune in tomorrow for T-Minus Deep Space, our show for extended interviews, special editions, and deep dives with some of the most influential professionals in the space industry. Tomorrow we'll have Maria's chat with Shelley Brunswick about space entrepreneurship. Check it out while you're walking the dog, prepping for another weekend of barbecues, or celebrating the end of the school year like my kids are. You don't want to miss it.
And now, a word from our sponsor, Zscaler, the leader in cloud security. Cyber attackers are using AI in creative ways to compromise users and breach organizations. In a security landscape where you must fight AI with AI, the best AI protection comes from having the best data. Zscaler has extended its zero trust architecture with powerful AI engines that are trained and tuned by 500 trillion daily signals. Learn more about Zscaler Zero Trust Plus AI to prevent ransomware and AI attacks. Experience your world secured. Visit zscaler.com/zerotrustai.
Scrolling through my LinkedIn feed a few weeks ago, I came across a post about the inaugural Australian Space Architecture Challenge. I reached out to the organiser, Amit Srivastava, to ask him to tell us more about it and where the idea came from.
The Andy Thomas Center has been around for a while, and I've been working on space architecture both as a researcher and as a teacher within the context of the architecture school. Recently, we had been working on the Australian Rover Challenge, which was part of an initiative to bring the first Australian rover to the surface of the moon. And with the developing success of that, we were also quite interested in expanding and seeing what other capacities we've got around Australia that we could capture through a challenge like this. And so we initiated the Space Architecture Challenge. And I think the word architecture sometimes is confusing because people think it's a very specific thing that would be only relevant to architects. But space architecture is itself quite a complex, multifaceted field, which gets inputs from all forms of expertise, from engineering to psychology to health and all sorts of things. So it seemed like a good idea to look at something that will allow all these diverse interests to come together and supporting and helping and thinking about human habitation in space.
So what is it you're looking for people to put out there as ideas? What is it that you're hoping that this will achieve with this challenge?
The thing with space architecture is that it is a design competition. It's an ideas competition. So we really want people to, let a loose rein on their imaginations and to really try and think of approaches that are not very common. So within space architecture, one of the interesting things is that we have years of experience that we've had with the ISS and living in zero-G. But once we start thinking about going to surfaces like the surface of the moon or Mars, it's a completely different game. So a lot that we've learned would be useful, but it is still we're really starting from scratch in many ways. So it's an opportunity for people to really get beyond what we already know and not get burdened by that, because that's what happened in an institutional context. Because you have that old knowledge, sometimes you are unable to move past the limits of that. And so this is an opportunity to do that. But also, this competition is particularly open to students, university students and graduates, recent graduates, with the idea that we can see what the next generation is imagining for a human habitation's future in space.
I love that. I think it's important to start bringing in people from that student group to start thinking about the future of space. Is it only open to Australian students, or is this something you're opening up to international participants as well?
So the focus is on Australians, but the competition is open to international participants as long as they also have an Australian student or graduate as part of the team. So what we're trying to do is we're trying to build a context within which this collaboration can happen. So as you can understand, space is an emerging field, and there are a limited number of people who are isolated from each other around the world trying to do their little thing. And it's an opportunity to bring people together and find like-minded people. So what we've also done is we are, of course, supporting university students to find other partners to form teams, but we've also formed online communities to get international people to sort of join in and then connect with Australian students and graduates and see how they can develop a team together.
Collaboration is key, and they always say space is the ultimate team sport. Now, I understand you've got quite a prize up for grabs for this competition. Can you talk to us a little bit about what it is you're offering, the winning concept?
So we've been quite lucky in terms of getting some sponsorship so that we can get interesting prizes. So there's, of course, a cash prize, and we have about $6,000 in cash prizes, with the first prize being about $3,000 and then $2,000 and $1,000. But in addition to the prize, the cash prize, there's lots of other prizes. So we have we've got sponsors from the industry who are supporting it in different ways. So we've got a video game company, for instance, who's going to help the winning entries developed into a video game environment and work with a video game that they're working on. We also have an education company that's going to help these students or the winners to work on, as part of their training courses, to develop opportunities, taking their ideas up as a startup and then taking it forward and develop it into a business proposition or things like that. We also have partnerships with research organizations that are looking at next generation advanced architecture manufacturing, who can help students work with new technologies and prepare for other things in the future. So there's a lot of different prizes, which are in-kind prizes in addition to the cash prizes. And in addition to that, what we're hoping is that the winning entries will be displayed at the 75th International Astronautical Congress, which is happening in Milan in October this year.
Yeah, that's one I read about. I thought, what a great opportunity for students to get involved in. It's interesting that Australia is doing this right now when you're just starting to start a whole launch sector. We've got your first spaceport that's just been licensed, and hopefully you're going to have a first launch this year. What's the environment like over there in Australia at the moment when it comes to space industry and startups?
So Australia, with a very small population but a very large landmass, means that we are quite separated from each other. And yes, there's a lot of work happening, particularly in the northern sectors around launch ports, because it is an ideal ground for launch. And even in South Australia, where I am based, there are a lot of companies that are particularly focusing on launch technologies, as well as ComSats, so satellites and communications and these sort of things. We are doing really well. But I'm personally interested in architecture, and we have been working on the sidelines on looking at developing building materials using in situ resources and things like that. In addition to that, I think I should point out that we recently just launched this really huge research center called Plants for Space, which is a massive international consortium. And that's another area of expertise that is developing here, which is looking at space agriculture or, growing plants in space.
I think you're really covering that whole concept of space for everyone and how there are different kind of career paths coming in. Could you tell us a little bit about what the University of Adelaide is doing to really ensure that students understand that there are multiple opportunities to get involved in the space industry?
Yes, it's been fascinating to be at the University of Adelaide. And as you've already pointed out, we are relatively new into this game. But only about 5-7 years ago, when the Australian Space Agency was moving its headquarters here, I think the University of Adelaide was very proactive in setting up the Andy Thomas Centre. And what they did was they actually recruited people from around the world to provide a good leadership. And since then, our Vice Chancellor and Pro-Vice Chancellor have been particularly valuable in supporting the centre and in expanding it. So you can totally understand that when the Space Research Centre originally started, it was in many ways focused on very few things that we knew we were doing well. But in a matter of only a few years, they've expanded it to different areas. Like I said, space architecture. We also have space psychology. We are showing quite a leadership in space law, particularly. And we have all these different forms of engineering as well as the sort of human factor sides of it coming together. And I think that's really the point of difference that we're trying to create here, because, of course, a lot has happened in the past 50, 60 years where, American institutions and European institutions have a lot of existing knowledge around this. And this is a point of difference that we're trying to create, which is focusing a lot on the human factors in terms of exploring space for all, as you said.
Now, I know recently you've just had an Australian that went through the European Space Agency's astronaut program. Are you finding that that's inspiring the next generation of people to get involved in the space industry over there?
Of course, there's no doubt about it. Every time an Australian name comes up, you can see it across the media and across social media, and that is definitely having an impact. And as we are discussing right now, space is a collaboration game. It's an international game. There is no way that we can be isolated as individual nations trying to do our own little things. And the Artemis Accord is already proving that it is meant as a collaborative effort. And so any kind of contribution that any country, including Australia, is making in that regard means that a whole new generation of people feel like they're part of this larger international community. And especially in a world where we have lots of stresses for the new generation to think about with climate change and all sorts of political issues where they feel continuously disheartened by it, these kind of efforts really establish that we are working together in a collaborative manner in trying to make the world, and in this case, the universe, a better place for mankind.
I love that. That's a great little idea to end us on. So if people are interested in learning more about this competition, where can they find out the details, and how long have they got until they're able to register their interest in this?
So, of course, all the information is available on our website. People can simply search for the Australian Space Architecture Challenge, and that should come up. It's free to register, and the registrations are open till 30th of June. After which people will have time to work on their design till the end of August, with the results coming out in September. Once you go to the website, there is also a link to our online community. So if there are any international participants, they can join the online community, and that will help us connect them to potential team members here in Australia.
We'll be right back.
The IT world used to be simpler. You only had to secure and manage environments that you controlled. Then came new technologies and new ways to work. Now, employees, apps, and networks are everywhere. This means poor visibility, security gaps, and added risk. That's why Cloudflare created the first-ever connectivity cloud. Visit cloudflare.com to protect your business everywhere you do business.
Welcome back. All right, here's a little science refresher. Space is really big. Thank you, Douglas Adams. Over its vast expanses, as the universe continues to expand, light also gets stretched. And we use the stretching of light to help us figure out how very, very old galaxies and stars are. Older light gets stretched more, and it stretches into red, the longest visible wavelength of light, and then even more into infrared. And we measure that stretching of light with the term redshifting, with a number afterward. So the bigger that number, the more light has been stretched. And that means the longer that light has been traveling. In other words, the further away that source of light is. Got it? Okay, so in 2015, the European Southern Observatory stunned a whole lot of people with its discovery of CR7, a very bright and very old galaxy whose full name is Cosmos Redshift 7. That puts it at about nearly 13 billion years old. Given that we think the universe is around 13.8 billion years old, that means Cosmos Redshift 7 was formed a mere 800 million years after the Big Bang.
It's a young'un.
It's a young'un. And I'm telling you all this because of Webb. So if you think Cosmos Redshift 7 is old, I mean, yeah, it is. Well, earlier this year, Webb's Advanced Deep Extragalactic Survey observed a very bright galaxy named JADES GS Z140. And this galaxy has a redshift of 14.32. That makes it now the most distant galaxy ever observed. And given its redshift, relative to the start of the universe, it's quite young. It formed less than 300 million years after the Big Bang. And we do not understand yet how or why a galaxy formed that quickly after the Big Bang came to be so bright so fast. So there's a big mystery here. But the exciting thing is, JADES GS Z140, that is a mouthful, isn't expected to be some standalone anomaly. In fact, we may very well find many more very ancient and very bright galaxies like it with Webb. In Webb's first year of observation alone, researchers found hundreds of other candidate galaxies to study that could be similar. So here's to Webb continuing to shatter records and uncovering deeper cosmic mysteries.
Wow, pretty amazing stuff. Now that's it for T-Minus for May the 31st, 2024, brought to you by N2K Cyberwire. For additional resources from today's report, check out our show notes at space.n2k.com. We'd love to know what you think of this podcast. Your feedback ensures we deliver the insights that keep you a step ahead in the rapidly changing space industry. If you like the show, please share a rating and review in your podcast app. Please also fill out the survey in the show notes or send an email to space@n2k.com.
We're privileged that N2K Cyberwire is part of the daily routine of the most influential leaders and operators in the public and private sector, from the Fortune 500 to many of the world's preeminent intelligence and law enforcement agencies. N2K makes it easy for companies to optimize your biggest investment, your people. We make you smarter about your teams while making your teams smarter. Learn how at n2k.com. This episode was produced by Alice Carruth. Our associate producer is Liz Stokes. We are mixed by Elliot Peltzman and Trey Hester, with original music by Elliot Peltzman. Our executive producer is Jennifer Iben. Our executive editor is Brandon Karpf. Simone Petrella is our president. Peter Kilpie is our publisher. And I'm your host, Maria Varmazes. Thanks for listening. Have a wonderful weekend.
T-minus.
Hey, listeners. We're always looking for ways to improve the N2K Cyberwire network and maintain the intelligence-driven news experience that keeps you in the know on the latest developments in cybersecurity. We've launched our 2024 audience survey and would love for you to take a few minutes to share your feedback. And hey, there's even a chance to win a $100 Amazon gift card if you complete the survey. Visit cyberwire.com/survey. That's cyberwire.com/survey and share your feedback now. And now, a word from our sponsor, 6sense. 6sense provides award-winning cloud-based automated endpoint and vulnerability management solutions to streamline IT and security operations. With its advanced platform, businesses gain complete visibility and control over their infrastructure, reducing IT and security risks and optimizing operational efficiency. With 6sense, you'll get real-time alerts, risk-based vulnerability prioritization and remediations, and an intuitive automation and orchestration engine so you can focus on your core business goals, confident in the knowledge that your enterprise is secure, compliant, and running smoothly. To learn why enterprises choose 6sense, visit 6sense.com.